wasn't planning on making this video today. In fact, my goal was to try to script this video, and camera's a little crooked there. When I was trying to script it and doing research for it, I realized that I have no idea that I couldn't even place why men were so lonely. And then after I took a break from doing some research, I realized something in my mind, and that was me doing research for this video actually made it harder for me to figure out why men are so lonely, because the advice out there that the modern world and most of the modern media gives you is complete and utter baloney. I had to think of a nicer word there. It's complete and utter garbage. It's just, I can't even believe it. So, when I was doing research on this video, there were several media and news articles where people were trying to give advice to young men of why are young men so they're trying to answer the question of why there's this massive loneliness epidemic for young men. And the main reason and advice they gave, it's just the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. The advice they gave was, well, women are more likely to make women are better at making friends than men. So, progressive men who are more feminine are able to make friends more effectively. This is just asinine to me. The media tells you that a problem that has only ever arisen just recently is because of traditional men. The reason they gave for this was because that more traditional men are more likely to focus on their career instead of at making friends. So if you want to be lonely, if you don't want to be so lonely, stop focusing on your career. Stop focusing on your goals. Stop focusing on anything productive. And instead, live more like a feminine little boy and go out and just try to make friends. There's a reason men are so lonely. And one of them is because of advice like this, because this is completely and utterly false. And it doesn't even make any sense if you think about it. The modern man who is lazy, who has no masculinity to speak of whatsoever, is told that your loneliness is because of traditionalism and being traditionally masculine, when that man hasn't done a day's work in his life. It doesn't even make any sense. You see, we as young men need to come together to fight this loneliness epidemic. Because I'll tell you the reason men are lonely here. The reason is because we have no community anymore. We have no sense of community. We as human beings grew up in tribes. We were meant to live in these tight-knit communities. And in the 1900s and 1800s, for most of human history, this was recreated through religion in church groups. Now, the power of these groups and these communities was that people were all called together who had similar ideologies. This was extremely powerful. And so, what this did is it united everybody. It united all these people under one name. We are this church. We are a church family. We're a group. And so this destroyed loneliness. Loneliness was not a problem. And our generation is the least religious generation of all time. it's also the most lonely of all time. I highly encourage you who are watching, find some community, some form of group. In this modern day, so many people are just pushed to political extremes to try to combat this feeling of lack of belonging, this lack of purpose. And so instead you just fall down the political rabbit hole to where your soul, all your entire personality is just centered around your political beliefs. Because that is how you combat your loneliness. That's how the modern day is telling you to combat loneliness. It's just be more political and have political ideologies that have nothing to do with you at all. And instead of making your own beliefs, you just follow everybody else because everyone's so lonely. I'm telling you that probably the best way for you to combat loneliness is with two ways. Start becoming more religious and start going to church and try to if you've never been to church, just observe the community that's there. Observe how people are able to interact in church settings because it's very, very different than how the modern world is told to communicate, and it's much more powerful. The second point is joining an online community. You see, by joining an online community and don't just be a nerd and like spend all your time on there. Basically, what you do is you join the online community and you meet up with the people you meet there in real life. There's dozens and dozens of self-improvement communities. And in fact, I plan on making one eventually. Not anytime soon, but it's something I want to do, is make an online self-improvement community, sort of like a club. Because men are just so lonely these days. Because there's no place for us anymore in this society. There really isn't. That's the truth. There's no place. We're shamed. We're not allowed. We're told not to participate in religious communities, not to suppress our masculine desires to work towards goals and to accomplish things. And when we feel lonely and depressed, we're told, oh, it's your fault. Yeah. And of course, I made the video about how everything's your fault, but it's our responsibility. I mean, disclaimers. It's not necessarily our fault, but it's our responsibility to fix that by taking steps to undo what society has done to us. That's all I got for today. So don't have dreams, have goals, and stay wild.